Vishnupada Statara Satya Srimad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Vichirila Pravishta Paramahansa Srila Gaur Krishna Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Vichirila Pravishta Satchidananda Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Vichirila Pravishta Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Janana Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Gauri Vedanta Tyaja Srila Baladev Vijayabhushan Prabhu Ki Jai. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur Ki Jai. Srila Narottam Srinivas Shyamananda Prabhu Chaya Ki Jai. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Shri Rup Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Diva Gopal Bhatta Das Raghunasai Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Sisu Damodar Vairol Nanda Shri Gopal Chudavin Ki Jai. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Antadev Mayapur Shrimati Devi Mataji Kolaji Richardji Janaji Pramodji Dhumaji Pavitra Padmaka Shri Navadip Ram Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopi Govindaram Vadasavanamaka Shri Vaj Mandala Ki Jai. Shri Shamakund Radhakund Yamuna Ganga Tulsi Bhaktivedanta Jai. Yogamaya Purnamasi Ki Jai. Gopishwar Mahadev Ki Jai. Jagannath Baladev Subhaji Surisan Chakravarti Ki Jai. Shri Purushottam Chaitra Ki Jai. Krishna Bhagavan Ki Jai. Bhakta Prabha Shri Prahlad Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Kantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Samagata Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Gaur.
Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jutaha Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Bande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Mahabhadanyaya Krishna Prema Pridayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gaura Trise Namaha. Nityanandam Namastubhyam Premananda Pradayane Kalo Kalmasha Nashaya Janava Pataye Namaha. Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vrindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keshavasya Cha Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavachai Namo Namah. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. First of all, I'm offering my unlimited Dandavat Pranams, my Shraddha Pushpanjali, at the lotus feet of my most worshipable, beloved Gurudev, Nitya Lila Pravishta. Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa, Ashtatara Sata Sri Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada. Then I'm offering my same unlimited Dandavat Pranams and my Shraddha Pushpanjali at the lotus feet of my most worshipable, beloved Siksha Gurudevs, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Astatara Sata Sri Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj, and Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Astatara Sata Sri Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. My Dandavat Pranams to the lotus feet of all of my Shri Rupa Nuga Guru Varga, and my Dandavat Pranams to all the Vaishnavas and all the Vaishnavis. So having finished our preface and introduction to the Nectar of Devotion, the summary study of Sri Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, now we begin chapter 1, which is titled Characteristics of Pure Devotional Service. So, as I told, we're also going to be reading Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu, and for certain verses, I'm also going to be referencing the actual Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, because all the shlokas are there and the commentaries are also there. So Srila Prabhupada definitely is summarizing, very much so. He's summarizing it and making it very, very condensed, because it's very vast. There are so many different shlokas quoted. Mostly, Srila Prabhupada is referring to them. But yet, to get a full, complete understanding, you'll actually have to go to the original texts and try to go deeply into that. So, a lot of times Srila Prabhupada is not quoting the actual Sanskrit shlokas. A lot of times he's not quoting. And he's just sometimes even paraphrasing the translation of the shloka. And then in other situations, he's going very deeply into certain subject matter, like he's going to be mentioning the characteristics of pure devotional service. So we should understand that pure devotional service, this term, is referring to what? Whenever Prabhupada says pure devotional service, what is he actually referring to? No. What condition is he referring to?
Unmotivated, uninterrupted.
In Sanskrit. What? Yes. Uttama Bhakti. Now, we can also say Shuddha Bhakti, sometimes referred to as Shuddha Bhakti. But Rupa Goswami has used the term Uttama Bhakti. What does Uttama mean? Topmost. Yes, it means topmost. In this connection, it means absolutely pure bhakti. Not a tinge. Not a single tinge of impure. Nothing. Absolutely pure. Therefore, topmost. It is only by this execution of this bhakti and aspiring towards it that a devotee can actually advance on the pathway. Why? Why is it only by this aspiration to attain that state of pure bhakti that is the criterion for the devotee to advance on the pathway from the very beginning stages of Shraddha? Why?
If we don't know the goal, then we can't make progress toward it.
That's true. That's true. But especially the devotee will be aware that if I don't practice in this way, as given by the Shastras, by Rupa Goswami, by our Guru Varga, by my spiritual master, if I don't practice in this way, I'll not advance. Remember how we were reading in the introduction how everything depends upon the spiritual master and Krishna's mercy? And that, how did Prabhupada put it? Without initiation by a bona fide spiritual master, one's connection with Krishna has actually not yet been established. We can never underrate that, the importance of that. It's literally impossible without a spiritual master. It's literally impossible in this entire universe to attain Krishna without a spiritual master.
You once mentioned that the spiritual master is God coming to you in the form of the spiritual master.
Yes, well, I didn't mention it. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur states it very quite directly in the 7th shloka of the Gurvastakam. What is that? We can all say it together. Sakshad Hari You know the translation? Mm-hmm.
Yes, but I don't remember.
Jalaji.
I don't remember.
Well, just say what you can. Give him the mic. Say what you can remember of it.
I don't even remember the words.
Oh,
I don't think I remember any of it.
okay.
The spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord on account of his being in the most confidential servitude of the Lord. This is acknowledged in all of the scriptures and confirmed by all authorities. And therefore, I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Lotus feet of the spiritual master. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta uses the analogy of God massaging his feet with his own hands. That's how intimately connected the spiritual master is. That he's not one, but he's so intimately connected that he's said to be one.
So, in the verse, it says Sakshad Haritvena. Sakshad Hari. What's the meaning of that, of those two words? Sakshad and Hari.
Directly.
Yes. And who is Hari? Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So here, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has made a very profound statement that the spiritual master, Sri Guru, is a direct manifestation. Sakshad Haritvena means a non-different, direct manifestation of Hari. This is a big one to grasp. He is directly a manifestation of Hari. How is that? How is it that Sri Guru is actually the Supreme Lord? He's Sakshad Hari, directly the Supreme Lord. How is it? Does that mean he's Vishnu Tattva? He's not Jiva Tattva? He appears to be Jiva Tattva, like a human being, right? But if he's Sakshad Hari, how is that? That he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari.
Directly empowered by Shri Guru.
Which potency?
The potency, in this case, to guide conditioned souls into the realm of service to the Supreme Lord. And so he's empowered in that way to do so.
So, have you ever heard of Akhanda Guru Tattva? That terminology, Akhanda Guru Tattva. We've heard this a lot. Akhanda Guru Tattva. What is the meaning? No, the meaning of the words. Akhanda Guru Tattva.
Complete Guru Tattva, no?
No, Akhanda means something different. Who is Akhanda Guru Tattva? And? Yes, yes. Balaram is Akhanda Guru Tattva. And the word Akhanda means undivided. The undivided principle of Guru Tattva, Guru. The Guru principle is him. He is Guru. That's why we say Guru Nityananda, Guru Nityananda. And Mahaprabhu also honored Nityananda Prabhu as Guru, as senior. But his mood, Nityananda's mood, Baladev's mood, is that of service to Krishna. Even though he is Krishna, he's actually directly Krishna. Directly Krishna. Baladev is. Like his other body. Krishna has two bodies. One is Krishna, one is Balaram. They're both identical. Some differences are there for rasa, but actually they're the same personality. So from Baladev comes all the other expansions. We've been studying that, particularly at the time of Nityananda Trayodasi. We studied a lot of that kind of tattva and read Chaitanya Charitamrita and so forth. So Baladev manifests as various expansions, who then expand, and then they expand, and then they expand as Mahavishnu, and then Mahavishnu creates all universes, and then he expands himself directly into each universe, becomes Garbhodakshai Vishnu, then he expands himself as Kiradakshai Vishnu in every universe. And then, from there, he expands himself into every heart of every jiva as the Param Atma, the Guru within, Chaitya Guru. And even, he also expands into every atomic particle. So, the principle of Guru Tattva comes originally from Baladev, but originally from Krishna. Krishna is actually the Guru. Even Krishna says that to Uddhava. He says, Acharya mam vijaniyam navamanyeta karhichit namartya buddhya suyeta sarva deva mayo guru. This is the classic verse which is always quoted by Krishna himself, telling Uddhava, Uddhava, you should know that it is I who am the Acharya. Acharya mam vijanyan. Vijanyan means you should know. That Acharya mam, I am the Acharya. So, actually Krishna is Guru. And the principle of Guru Tattva is invested within Baladev. And Baladev literally manifests unlimited, infinite forms of Guru. So in the verse that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has composed, he's telling there that Sakshad Haritvena Samasta Shastrai Ruktastata Bhav Yata Eva Sadabi. Means Sri Guru is a direct manifestation of Hari. And this is declared, this is stated in all Shastras. Not just one here and one there. Everywhere it is stated. Samasta Shastra means all Shastras. Ruktastata bhavyada eva sadabi. And it is also declared by all sadabi. Means pure devotees. All pure realized souls also declare the same fact. That Sri Guru is Hari. Then comes the next line. Kintu prapoya priya eva tasya. Kintu means however. So yes, he is declared in all Shastras to be directly manifestation of Hari, of Krishna. However, he's also prapuya priya eva tasya. He is the most dearly beloved of Hari. So, Srila Sridhar Maharaj very beautifully explains in the Sri Guru and His Grace this whole conception. And he explains that the Guru, Sri Guru, has two sides. The person who is acting as spiritual master, he actually has two sides of his personality, right? He says the one side is called his inspired side, his divinely inspired side. And the other side, his devotee side. Does Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, throughout all of his pastimes, he has descended as a devotee. He's the Supreme Lord himself, Krishna himself. He is descended and acting in this world as a pure devotee. He is Mahaprabhu, the great master. Everyone is his servant. He is the supreme spiritual master. And Nityananda Prabhu is his second body. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, throughout all of his pastimes, he would always avoid that someone would call him the Supreme Lord. Yes, there's a manifestation for 21 hours where he sat on the altar of Vishnu in Srivasangan and acted as the Supreme Lord. But What happened after that 21 hours? Did he continue acting like the Supreme Lord? No. He came out of this bhav, this mood that he was manifesting. And then he became very humble and he would, oh, what did I say? What did I do? You see? Whenever anyone would call him the Supreme Lord, he would block his ears and he would run away. One time they defeated him in Jagannath Puri. The devotees did. Because lakhs and lakhs of people were outside and they were all chanting his name. Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Gauranga, Gauranga. And I think it was Swarup Damodar Goswami told Mahaprabhu. Because he was, and they were chanting, like the whole crowds were chanting, you are Krishna himself. So then at that point, Mahaprabhu was still reluctant to come there and manifest himself. And then Swarup Damodar said, oh Mahaprabhu, is it possible for the sun to be covered by clouds? You can try to cover yourself, but everyone knows. You see? So his entire pastime was always as a devotee. But yet, he's the Supreme Lord. He himself even took initiation from a pure devotee, Ishvara Puripad. He himself served as a disciple in that mood. And it was by that, at that same time, that all of his internal moods began to manifest in the Leela of Navadvip Leela. It was not until then, when he returned back from Gaya, he was changed. And everyone noticed, oh, look at how humble he is. He's become a devotee. He's actually become a devotee of Krishna. We've been praying and praying for this. They were so joyful. So in this way, the principle of Guru Tattva is actually Krishna himself. And it manifests in a devotee. So when that manifests, the Guru Tattva principle manifests in a devotee, now he is like Shakti Avesh. He's become overwhelmed by the potency of the Lord. And now he preaches. But at the same time, he never thinks of himself as the Supreme Lord. He never thinks of himself like that. That's the difference between the so-called gurus, especially in India, where they imitate and they declare that they're an incarnation. There are persons declaring they're incarnations of Mahaprabhu. Persons declaring they're incarnations of Krishna. In Gaura Leela, in Krishna Leela, even in Krishna Leela. Pandraka, I'm the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Don't mind that I have 2 extra fake arms, but I'm the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he sent a letter in Dwarka. And when they read this letter, all the associates of Krishna, they began to laugh. How ludicrous. He's trying to pose as and he's declaring that you, Krishna, you should give up your position. I am actually the Supreme Lord. So Krishna says, okay, I'll give up my Sudarshan chakra and cut off your other 2 arms. But because he was connected in the dynasty, Krishna gave mercy to him. And gave him Sarupya Mukti, which means you get the same form as the Supreme Lord. Sarupya. So the main point I wanted to make is that Kintu Prabhuya Priya Eva Tasya. The spiritual master never thinks of himself as being the Supreme Lord. And even in his acting the role of spiritual master, he feels that there's this empowerment coming through him, but he cannot understand. He's not understanding how this empowerment is coming through him. For example, Ramananda Roy. Ramananda Roy was empowered by Mahaprabhu to speak. And he could understand. At one point he's saying, actually, I can understand that really you are just using me as an instrument to speak. It is you who is doing the speaking, actually. So this is why the spiritual master can only be an unalloyed pure devotee, because otherwise false ego will come. And so much misconception. I am Supreme Lord. I'm going to refer to a well-known, controversial incident that happened 1970, New Vrindavan, 1970, Janmashtami festival. And I had joined the movement on August 3rd, which was just a couple of weeks, I think. 2 or 3 weeks before Janmashtami. And everybody, we drove in a van from Detroit all the way out to West Virginia, and then I was at New Vrindavan for the first time, and I'm relatively very, very new. And there were 4 sannyasis who had just taken sannyas from Srila Prabhupada in Los Angeles, who were there. One very big-bodied. They had their dandas. Brahmananda Swami. Another one, his brother, Gargamuni Swami. Another one, Vishnu Jan Swami. And the fourth one was... No. He didn't stay around that long. Subal. Yeah, Subal. So, they had read in the Nectar of Devotion, there's a section where it's being discussed how the spiritual master is actually Krishna. He's actually the Supreme Lord himself. And they were sitting there in the temple room, and devotees had come. It was the very first Janmashtami festival celebrated at New Vrindavan. And it was in the little, they didn't have the other places built yet. So it was just that little, what do you call it? It looked like a cabin, a big cabin there on the land. You had to walk up this whole big circular dirt road, and you got there. But really there was at least 100 or 150 devotees that came. And it was the first time that the newly appointed GBC members, who were just appointed literally days before, or weeks, 3 weeks before, by Srila Prabhupada in Los Angeles, he formed the GBC just before he left the country to go to Japan, visit the printers, and then go to India, 1970. So these sannyasis, there's a whole background. I'm not going to get into the whole history of how things were developing. But these devotees, they started to preach to the whole audience of devotees that actually Srila Prabhupada is Krishna himself. He's directly Krishna himself, you know. And then they're reading that passage from the Nectar of Devotion. They're reading where it says there that one should understand that I am the Acharya, like this, what I quoted. So then, devotees were like, but the way that they were preaching it was very forceful. And I was very new, and I'm like, there were devotees in the room with curled brows, and then they spoke out and they said, that's not true. There was this whole debate going on. They were like pushing it. And I'm confused about that. And I'm confused, what the heck is going on here, you know? I'm sensing that there's this big quarrel and disagreement. So one devotee named Kanupriya, he took me for a walk. Because I was brand new and he had been a devotee for a couple of years at that time. And he explained to me, he says, look, you know, you don't have to become so concerned. What they're doing is they're preaching Mayavad philosophy. Oh, what's that? And then he began to explain to me, the Mayavadis say, I'm God, you're God, we're all God, like that. So,
it's pretty mature for a 2-year devotee.
what?
Pretty mature for a 2-year
The mic?
devotee. Pretty mature for a 2-year devotee to have that realization.
Well, yeah, I mean, Prabhupada, they were directly associating with Prabhupada, hearing his lectures, reading his books. Prabhupada made it very, very clear what Mayavadism is, right? So now these sannyasis are saying, on the basis of Prabhupada's own book, that he's actually Krishna himself. So that whole controversial thing was being discussed, and I could feel the tenseness of the situation. And then I saw Rupanuga, Bhagavan, a couple of others, Satsvarupa, and they were sitting together and they were all discussing together outside, you know, what are we going to do about this? We're going to have to inform Srila Prabhupada, you know. This cannot be tolerated, you know. So then they actually called up Srila Prabhupada on the phone. And they got a hold of him. And after that short festival, we went back to Detroit, and they all came in the same van with us, all 4 of them. Just a big, huge maxi van with no seats, just the driver's seat. So all the way back from West Virginia, we were in this van. And the next day, we went out on Sankirtan. Vishnujan Swami came out to meet our party, and he did the most amazing drum performance, and it was quite unique. And then we came back to the temple at the end of the day, like 5 p.m. And when we arrived back at the temple, Bhagavan was standing on the porch of the temple room, of the temple's front door. It was like some stairs, these old style houses. And the 4 sannyasis with their dandas were walking down the block, and they were like, 20 or 30 yards away. And then Bhagavan called after them and said, don't forget, Prabhupada said to preach and purify yourselves. So they had been told that Srila Prabhupada was telling them they should go away from the temples. At that time, they actually went to Ann Arbor, Michigan, and they met Indradumna and his wife at that time. They made him a devotee. They stayed with him for like about a month. And then they came to visit our temple like a month later. I was the person who opened up the door when he rang the doorbell. So I'm telling this story in relation to this philosophical point about understanding Sri Guru as a manifestation of Krishna. But at the same time, Kintu Prapuya Priya Evatasya. Yes, he's a direct manifestation of Hari, because the potency of Guru Tattva is within him. So in that sense, he's directly Hari. And the disciple, by having this firm conviction that my Gurudev is Sakshat Hari, that's the principle upon which that disciple can advance. Without having that conviction, disciple cannot advance, because that means Guru Nishta, that is empowered personality. If the devotee, if the disciple does not have that kind of conviction, then they will not be able to receive the full mercy of Guru. It is that faith, that Guru Nishta, that enables the disciple to advance. So, but Guru is always a humble devotee. He never ever thinks, I'm a manifestation of Krishna. He understands because he has his own Guru also. The Guru Tattva principle is very clearly understood, but he does not ever feel that way. But he preaches very boldly because of that Guru Tattva. I remember Gaur Govinda Maharaj's disciples, before I really met Gaur Govinda Maharaj, they told me all about him. And I heard many, many stories about him. And you know, you can see it on his videos, how lion-like he is when he's preaching, you know. Very, very powerful. And every year, they would have him give one of the classes during the Gaur Purnima festival. And he would be like that. Very, very bold, very challenging even. But as soon as he would come off of the Vyasasana, he would be very, very meek and humble. Like that. So, yes, so...
There's an article by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta that says, should the Guru abandon his seat and not tell his disciples to shout Jai to him?
Mm-hmm.
Should he abandon his seat in the name of humility?
Mm-hmm.
No, this is my service to my
Mm-hmm.
Guru.
Yes.
Instill faith in the disciple.
Oh, yes. That's such a beautiful article. We could read the whole thing in relation to this point, you know. So, in this way, the first chapter is beginning. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 29th chapter, verses 12 and 13, Srila Kapiladev, while instructing his mother, he has given the following characteristics of pure devotional service. So Rupa Goswami is beginning with this shlok from 3rd canto. He says to his mother, my dear mother, those who are my pure devotees and who have no desire for material benefit or philosophical speculation, gyan karma, they have their minds so much engaged in my service that they are never interested in asking me for anything except to be engaged in that service. They do not even beg to live in my abode with me. So, what is the characteristic here? Absolutely anyavilashita shunya. They are not serving Krishna to get anything. Yeah.
Question. Sometimes we see, because we know Guru is one, he appears in millions of forms, and sometimes we see the different acharyas have a different mood on a certain situation.
Yeah.
Is our conception of understanding that Krishna likes variety, and therefore...
Yes, because he's Rasika Shekhar, Akil Rasamritamurti, and therefore everything has infinite variety. Infinite variety. Every single particle of his creation is individual, and every jivatma is individual, because Krishna is infinite. So therefore he has infinite desire to taste rasa. So you will not find any two jivas completely alike. Imagine that. In all infinity, you're the only one of you. You're the only one. So, and amongst Krishna's billions of gopis, they're not carbon copies. They're individuals. Even Srimati Radhika wants to expand Krishna's transcendental taste of rasa and expands her very own self as 8 individual gopis, just for Krishna's variety, you see. So variety, like the mundane people say, is the spice of life, right? Variety. Oh, they cannot even imagine to what extent that is true.
If everybody wanted to offer Krishna a white flower, it would get pretty dull. He wants variety.
Yeah, so we don't have to speculate at all that variety is to taste and to have an individual, personal relationship. See, this is the thing. Srila Sridhar Maharaj says Krishna's heart is a very big heart. Very, very big. He can fit all infinite number of jivas in his heart and have an individual relationship with each and every one of them. No?
Gurudev said the same thing one time
Uh-huh.
about himself.
Give the mic. Yeah, I mean, look, even from the viewpoint of Tattva, the creation of the universes, there's infinite numbers of universes. We say billions, but how many? Of universes. They're all coming from the body of Mahavishnu, who's just a part of a part of a part of a part of Krishna. Okay? And not only that, but every single jiva who doesn't attain liberation, which is most of the jivas in the universe, by the end of the universe, the destruction of the universe, Lord Shiva extracts them, places them into the body of Mahavishnu again, and they're all there, all the jivas. Look, don't try ever to try to fit it into this tiny little skull with a gray matter inside, to grasp it and conceive of it, because it's infinite and it's inconceivable. Everything, actually, the more that I become acquainted with things, the more I understand, like, look at anything here, anything, dirt, a tree, the clouds in the sky, accommodate unlimited jivas and species, whether it's on the land, in the air, in the water, or even in fire. Yes, there are jivas even in fire. The whole sun planet is fiery, right? And if you look at anything, the fact that we're even talking, our brains are moving, blood is flowing, this whole inconceivable human body with all the different systems inside all working together, keeping us alive, and it also has a time scale that it gradually wears out. Then you got to change the body, go to how that change even takes place, how all the karmas that it's all recorded in the subtle plane. I mean, anything that you discuss about this creation is inconceivable. It is. And the tragedy of the modern scientists is that they want to try to comprehend everything with their imperfect senses and their imperfect brain, but they'll never be able to. Einstein, one thing, Einstein, there's a famous quote from him. He was a theist. That's the good thing about him, because he understood that actually real knowledge means to understand that you know nothing. That's what real knowledge is, to understand that you know nothing. And we have the greatest example of that ever, anywhere, by Lord Brahma himself admitting this fact in his prayers. No one can have as big a brain as Lord Brahma in our universe. But he admits, I'm absolutely nothing. And if anybody says they understand Krishna, no, I will never accept. I mean, there's so many beautiful verses in the Brahma Stuti. So my point is that you just look at the material energy and how the material energy is composed with the different elements, but it's all broken down into molecular structures and into atomic structures. And even that, the scientists, when they examine what's happening on the atomic level, they can't even comprehend it.
Wasn't it you the other day who talked about the difference between Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and between two acharyas, Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami, their take on the ending of the material lila, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, don't try to understand it. Wasn't that you who said that?
That they were in the ending of what?
There's a different ending they have to the lila, and Srila Srinivas was asking how is this possible.
Oh, to a particular lila.
Yeah. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, don't try to understand this is inconceivable. Yeah,
because Krishna's leelas are infinite, and the perspective from which the devotee is viewing it Srila Sri Maharaj gave another nice example. He said, Rupa and Sanatan Goswami, they have written all these books, their individual books. And each one of them is presenting to the world this jewel that they're holding in their hand. The jewel is called Krishna. But just like when you hold a faceted gemstone in your hand and you move it, then you see another reflection of the lights and the colors and all of this. So he said they're both observing this infinite jewel called Krishna, and they're trying to describe him in their own way. So there's some uniqueness in what they're seeing and what they're describing. And they're also empowered because, like, for example, Jiva Goswami, he's the greatest follower of Rupa Goswami, but yet it appears that in his Gopal Champu, he's mentioning about Radha and Krishna being married. So, is that true? Is it not true? He himself, in the Venu Geet introduction, Gurudev is quoting Jiva Goswami, who's saying, some things I'm writing are for others, and some things I'm writing are for myself.
Once they presented one of Srila Govinda Maharaj's books to Gurudev, and Gurudev had a different take on it. And he said, but don't think he's wrong.
Yeah.
He said everything depends on mood and circumstance.
Yes. I mean, one of the most interesting differences between two acharyas was Rath Yatra in Navadvip, established by Param Gurudev, But Srila Sridhar Maharaj was not appreciating this. He was in a different mood, and he likened it to like Akrura's chariot that he was riding on, and then later on, after Akrura took Krishna away, then Uddhava also came on a chariot. And you remember how the gopis, who is this, coming on this golden chariot? Oh, now he's come. Now Akrura has already taken our very heart and soul. And now, I forget exactly how they express it, but the gopis are saying how now they've come to torture us more. You see? So, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he had his own internal moods in his bhajan, in his direct perception of Navadvip Dham. And on the day when Mahaprabhu would take sannyas every year on the Vaishnava calendar, in Srila Sridhar Maharaj's there was a very, very grave and somber mood. The whole mat. Mahaprabhu has left Navadvip. He's gone to take sannyas. These are the internal experiences of the pure Vaishnavas. Whereas Srila Param Gurudev, he was showing the moods of Rath Yatra, because Rath Yatra being performed.
Moods and circumstances by which the absolute truth is presented.
Yes. And Krishna is tasting each and every one of them from his pure devotees. You see? So, in this way, the characteristics of pure devotional service, Kapila Dev is saying, those who are my pure devotees who have no desire for material benefit or philosophical speculation, they have their minds so much engaged in my service that they are never interested in asking me for anything except to be engaged in that service. They do not even beg to live in my abode with me. So then Prabhupada is explaining there are 5 kinds of liberation. Namely, to become one with the Lord, to live with the Supreme Lord on the same planet, to have the same features as the Lord, to enjoy the same opulences as the Lord, and to live as a companion of the Lord. A devotee, what to speak of rejecting material sense gratification, he does not even want any of the 5 kinds of liberation. He is satisfied simply by discharging loving service to the Lord. That is the characteristic of pure devotion. So this is the beginning of the first chapter. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Lord Kapila Dev's statement. And just one last thing is in Prabhupada's tape, I told you I was listening to his first recorded Bhagavad Gita lecture. And remember, I was telling you that? And in there, Prabhupada's talking about this topic. Because he's dealing with persons that have been influenced by Mayavad, impersonalism. Even the lady is a disciple of Dr. Mishra. And she doesn't have a proper understanding. So Prabhupada is lecturing on this topic, 5 different types of liberation. And how the pure devotee will accept, he doesn't aspire, but he'll accept the other 4 types, but he'll never accept Sayujya Mukti, merging. Very important topic. So in this way, we'll gradually be studying this first chapter, and we'll study the 6 characteristics of pure devotional service, which are divided into 3 groups. That in the Sadhan Bhakti stage, Bhav Bhakti stage, and Prem Bhakti stage. Characteristics written by Rupa Goswami of each stage of pure devotional service. Okay, Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol, Shri Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Ki Jai, Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai, Srila Sri Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai, Shri Rupa Nuga Guru Varga Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Vancha Kalpaduruvascha Kripa Sindhu Vivacha, Patikaram Pavani.